Hello, folks, and welcome to Star Metal Productions. We are here for another episode of At Its Core, our Substratum Protocol series. And actually, I think that second take was better than the first. So, YouTube, you got the better part. Anyway, yeah, I'm in a great mood today. Hit a font of inspiration for this game and others. So, I'm excited to see where our two intrepid scientists take this today. I don't think there are any major updates before we get going, except actually we have a casting call for an upcoming Pokemon series. So you can check that over on our socials, and that'll send you to a quick form to fill out if you want to play some Pokemon with us. It's going to be a fun time. But that's all I'll say about that for now, because I like to keep these intros brief so we can get going. And I think that's really all we need. So, I did the recap last time, if I remember correctly. So let's throw it back to our two players here to give me a recap of what happened in the last leg of our journey.
Nothing good.
Everything good.
No, nothing good.
That's the duality that really defines this series.
Yep. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Tal. Tell them why you think everything's going poorly.
Well, I personally, the fact that we had to play live action Frogger as lightning bolts tried to destroy us in a room that was built like a giant acid battery.
A leaky acid battery.
A leaky acid battery, which then resulted in us trying to decipher some scripture on these metal walls, only for it to push one of our party over the edge. And what happened to you, the Eye?
I have gained everything that I want to gain in this life and the next. Knowledge, mutation. What else could one ask for in this world? I feel like perhaps I have delved too close to Zinch from the Warhammer 40k universe, and I've been blessed with his. Yeah.
Said like a proper acolyte of Zinch.
Yeah. And the knowledge of the universe has come upon me. I am now a one-eyed, elongated, strange skull-shaped individual in a power armor. I mean, what else is there?
Whereas I'm just a mess of, well, reliving my failures and being told I'm not good enough over and over and over again. So very very real to life for me.
No escapism here.
No,
the world is literally falling apart.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry.
A bit of politics for you.
Yeah, so both of our intrepid scientists are quite stressed out at the moment. Our Dr. Undermoon here is what, 6 boxes out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes out of 8, with the 2 spillover that he bought with upgrades. And our Dr. Daring is fully stressed out. The stress bar has hit max, the warning signs have gone off, the suit is malfunctioning, and his mind has been opened up to things that are beyond our ken. And that's more or less where we left off. Dr. Daring had kind of deciphered the script that was on this extremely intricate plating found spread throughout this acid battery level, and that writing seemed to be at least a part, or at least a maintenance log of some kind for some sort of incredibly vast machine, planetary machine, that this battery, for lack of better words, was powering, and started to get a glimpse of just how well, cosmic the scale of things are here. And during that inspection, we last left off with a sort of drawer opening out of one of these sections of paneling, revealing a small, clear, spheroid crystal containment unit that seemed to contain a miniature star, like a golf ball sized star, complete with solar flares and everything. And that was the portal clue for the previous sector of our expedition. So let's pick up there, because that's something I unfortunately left for far too long last episode. So let's start with getting out of this current sector, this highly corrosive sector, or at least traveling through the length of it, and allowing our team to discuss what has been going on and dive into this portal clue. So, it was Dr. Daring who was granted this portal clue, discovered this portal clue. The information was all there written in this minuscule script of a multitude of characters from a multitude of prehistoric and, for lack of a better word, primitive societies. That granted him an understanding beyond the current horizon. And in doing so, led him to this object. So, we are going to roll for that understanding now. And actually, I believe, because of your stress level, you automatically succeed at understanding actions.
Yes, I do.
Which is what is required to... let's see, let me just double check this.
I have become the key.
Yeah, once you have a portal clue, you can attempt to glean knowledge from it. This is... Let's see. This is think plus a skill of your choosing, which is actually both... Yeah, this is gain knowledge from a clue. This is specifically an understanding check, which you automatically succeed. But you would normally have that roll, which means you would be getting cards as well. Every action you take, collect both cards regardless of the outcome. So really, since you automatically succeed, and this is still a check, you can just go ahead and take whatever these two cards are. We have a 7 of spades. And a 3 of spades.
I was hoping to get a king or a queen out of that, but...
Well, at the very least, they are a pair of the same suit. They do have their use. All right. So this is full understanding of this portal clue. So go ahead and roll me. This is another one of those. You roll a d6, I roll a d6.
I'll take the singles this time.
All right. So that is a 54. Okay. So this portal clue, which is a sort of combination of this understanding you've gotten from the text, the flooding of your mind and sensors that kind of lead you to believe it's some sort of planetary scale machine supplying power to something vast, and also this object that you seem to have is in some way related. And the question is, the answer to which will become the clue you've discovered. As for the portal, are there any limits to its functionality? Which could be an interesting question to answer, since you don't really know what the functionality of the portal is, but you can tell me what limits there may be to it. Unless you think that's too abstract of a question for right now.
Would you come up with another question if I did say it was too abstract?
We'd re-roll. because I
Yeah.
know that that's a difficult one to answer without. You can't define parameters for a function if you don't really know what the function is,
Yeah.
unless you
Yeah.
have an idea.
No, I don't really have an idea. Let's say we roll and see what we come up with, and I'll
All
answer
right.
whatever this is. And same numerical thing for me.
All right. So that is a 65.
Okay.
Okay.
Almost max.
Yeah. So this will probably be an easier concept to answer. Does the portal have a physical form?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that really is a yes or no question. You
I
are
answered the
free.
question.
Yeah, no, you are free to leave it there,
Yes.
but I will add on to that question in sort of the spirit of intent I'm envisioning here. What is that physical form, if you would like to define it?
I think the physical form would be I think it would be the epicenter of the core of the Earth. It would be basically a singularity of some sort that is locked within the very core of the world.
Okay. I suppose a singularity is a physical form. Are you saying it is structural to the Earth?
I think it has physical properties, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm basically envisioning a wormhole with physical.
Right. Okay. I have added that to our portal clue log. Okay, so as you are traveling through the remainder of this sector, who would like to take charge of leading this leg of the expedition?
I am at a D4 for everything, Tal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to do it. I think he needs something to keep his mind off of the whispers that are currently
Yes.
surging through his brain. So definitely a
and
case of keep yourself occupied, map the way ahead. I can do that. I've done it before, so I know what I'm doing. It's comfort in repeating familiar patterns for him.
yes. And in fact, your stress has gone up to the fragile laws state 5 to 7.
Yep.
So I will give you the option if you would like to use the repair functionality, discarding any 2 cards. They do not need to be suited to clear 1 stress, which would bring you back down to Thrumming Whispers, or because travel usually in some regard will clear some stress. You could just simply stick with fragile laws and see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with it and just because I think I've got an advantage die from last
Yes.
session, so I'm gonna stick with it, and then if I need to, I'll rely on that. But he he's just going to immerse himself in, plot the route, find the way through, bury
All
yourself
right.
in your work.
So this sounds like a continuation of your dash plus think.
Yes, absolutely. Which is a D8 and a D6 for me.
All right, let's see those cards.
Come on.
We have 5 of spades. That should be fairly easy. And a 4.
Come on, right, okay.
We got easy cards.
But I'm at -2, aren't I?
You are at
My
-2.
rolls. Right, okay. So D6 first. Come on.
Already starting out at a -1.
Oh. Come on, D8. big D8. Ooh.
Okay.
You need to roll.
I would like to use my advantage die, please.
There you go. You would re-roll the lowest ratio, highest ratio, the lowest result
Yeah,
percentage. You would re-roll the d6.
yeah.
Don't know enough. I don't remember enough math terms.
Currently on 2 at the moment, aren't I?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, come on, D6, come on. Okay.
That works.
Yeah,
That
I
did
think
it.
that'll do it.
Yeah.
4 plus 4 is 8, minus 2
Ooh.
is 6. You needed to beat 5. There you go. Excellent.
Okay. Great stuff.
That is a very good result because you both need to clear some stress. So over this leg of travel, I will. Yeah, just go ahead and you can each clear 2 stress and reset all of your skills to their current maximum.
So I'm at 6 stress.
D8, D6, D8,
There's Undermoon.
10, yes. 44. Marvelous.
There we go.
Good stuff. Right, no advantage. Use that up. That's okay. And no more fragile laws. That's done as well. Cool.
Yep, Dr. Undermoon, you are down to Thrumming Whispers.
Yeah.
And Dr. Daring, you are down to Fragile Laws now. So the temporary enlightening, I think, would be an appropriate word for Dr. Daring, will sort of recede slightly as you complete the travel of this journey. But given that portal clue and the answer you have made, and just everything that has been going on, would there be any interesting conversations while you are trudging through all of these acid pools and electrified stalactites, stalagmites?
I think during the journey, there would be a point when the understanding leaves him, where Daring would be found, whether in his tent or whatever, crying. Um, and just like helmet off, this strange skull in his hands. The fingers are elongated, and you just see tears coming down out of his one eye, and he just rocking back and forth.
I'm the worst person to be stuck with for emotional support.
Yeah, I know.
It is not in his wheelhouse whatsoever. I think the best way you need to look at this, look at this from a scientific point of view. You've experienced something no one else ever has. I mean, just think of the experiments that we could perform on you, the understanding we could gain from these changes. It would be remarkable.
There's a sudden flash of movement, and those hands, those strange hands, clutch to your suit.
Yep.
And he goes, "It's not their understanding. I've lost mine."
Okay, calm, deep breaths. Let's just, let's take a moment and, reconfigure and just let's remember we're both scientists here, and we've still got a ways to go to discover what on earth's going on. Let's not turn on each other.
But I had it. I knew what was going on, and the knowledge is gone. It's gone.
But
I have to have it back.
well, that theory does suggest that if the knowledge exists, it can be retrieved again in some way. Yes?
Yes. I have to get it
But
back.
maybe, well, let's maybe see if we could do this in a more scientific way than what happened previously, perhaps. It's very difficult to quantify these kinds of things. Yes. But I've been keeping some notes on your changes, and I've made some sketches, and well, we're going to learn so much from this experience. It's incredible.
Slowly, the hands come off of your suit and just backs off a moment. He's just staring as if staring at something very important. And he just shakes his head, rubs his head. I'll find it again. I'll find it again.
That's the spirit. That's the kind of scientific rigor I approve of.
As Dr. Undermoon pulls out a pair of calipers to start measuring his new head.
Yeah, yes, very much so. Taking measurements, do a 3D scan. Fascinating. The brain doesn't seem to have grown, but the skull has. Marvelous.
But yes, when you are coming down from this enlightenment, Dr. Daring, it is if, as the caveman who discovered fire had briefly learned nuclear physics, and then it all went away again.
Oh, God. Right. Oh,
So some difficult nights during this journey. And this conversation would have been towards the tail end of this sector, which means the nights you have spent previously have likely been filled with, as we've seen before from Dr. Daring, muttering under his breath in ancient languages, in languages that may not make sense, combinations of languages that shouldn't be used together. Strange, erratic behavior. Pinpoint focus on something that you either do not perceive or do not understand the importance of. And it is perhaps this distraction with all of Dr. Daring's changes, both physically, mentally, emotionally, that has prolonged this journey for you. You're getting a lot of really good map data, Dr. Undermoon. Using the beep boop bop and the various sensors on your suits, it is like every leg of the leg of the journey. It's slow going because you again have to worry about timing your movements to help minimize your involvement in the electrical field. You have to watch out for acid pools. You have to constantly be reapplying that sort of anti-acidic paint, applying foams and gels and whatnots to various hoses and ports and whatnot. Taking extra time to secure your deployable environment when you want to rest. But you realize after a few weeks of traveling and looking back at this map data you've created, you're not moving any deeper. There's times where you are going down a decline, but then eventually you have to go up at least an equal incline. You've been traveling not in a circle. The planet is huge, obviously. You can travel forward for a long time before you realize you're not making any appreciable downward progress. But you seem to get to a point where you realize you can't get any further down than, let's say, 25 kilometers more. which is quite a decline and quite an incline to be constantly going up and down. But we are now operating at depth between 2,500 kilometers and 3,100 kilometers. But you just can't seem to get down past a certain level. And then you stumble upon something that is specifically out of the ordinary. Something you've not seen, not only in this leg of the journey, but really at all, I believe. You saw the plating on the walls previously, that very geometric, what's the term, geodesic paneling on the walls made of some sort of metal ceramic composite of some sort. Clearly a man-made or artificial creation. I think that's really the first one that you've seen that hasn't been made out of stone or some ill-defined glittery compound. But you see, on the floor ahead of you, in what looked to be a cave-in of some kind. It looks like there was recent seismic activity here that looks like it has partially collapsed this tunnel that you're currently in, this cavern that you're currently walking through. Except there's a sort of divot in the stone where you find a bulkhead.
Oh.
An actual, well, not just a bulkhead, a door, a latch. It is partially buried. It looks like it was, I guess, covered over by the rock, or at least the sediment. And it does look damaged. You can see with your torchlight flashlights the glint of the light reflecting off of it, and also that it's askewed a bit, where the door should have been flush so that it would open and close, is now all messed up. And you can see some of the corrosive gas that is quite thick at this level, slowly rolling down into this now broken bulkhead door.
Is there anything to indicate what might have broken it?
The seismic activity. It looks like there is a clear shift. Actually, that's a great question for our geochronologist, our student of old rocks. Go ahead, actually. This is a good opening roll here.
Yeah.
So this will start the beginning of the next leg of our journey after you have, cleared from the travel. Go ahead and make a think plus something.
Okay. So I'm going to say it probably would be a think plus break, because I'm probably going to have to break off. Yeah, I mean, it's a D4, but it makes the most sense narratively because I'm going to have to break off bits to study them. So that's a D10 and a D4 I've got to roll there. Right, what have you got for me?
Cards. 4 of diamonds. Another
Yep.
fairly low card.
And a jack.
And a jack of clubs.
Right. I've got a -1 at the moment, haven't I?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is 11 to beat.
So let's do the 4 first. Okay. A 3. Yep. And then the big D10. Come on, D10. You can do this.
Wow.
There you go. 10 on a 10.
Yes.
3 plus 10 is 13, minus 1 for a 12. Jack is 11, so you can take that 4 and that Jack.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
So this is your time to shine, Dr. Geochronologist. These are quite
absolutely.
old rocks. And you can take some time to study the stratification of the rock here. Check out how the seams have been broken over time. Check out how the sediment has gathered over time. And you are still within this supposed planetary scale acid battery. And you can see where some of that functionality has been disrupted. It all looks like it was mostly built from natural formations, but you can see where stalactites have cracked and fallen off. Stalagmites likewise chipped away. And you do now see that there is some sort of vines dangling from some of the larger seams, breakages between the rocks. And then you realize those aren't vines, really. They don't strictly adhere to the definition of plant matter, fauna, flora, or fauna for that matter. But they are reminiscent to the cables that you see every now and then running out of the acid pools. And they do seem to be in some way biomechanoid. But that's not the study of old rocks. That's some other weird xenotech.
Oh, yeah, no.
You're more concerned with the rock layers, and you can tell that these are incredibly, incredibly old rocks. These rocks are billions of years old. You are down at a depth where you are dealing with some of the fundamental structural foundation of the planet.
Nice.
Except it does seem a little high for you to be estimating ages that old. Not entirely sure what that means, because you are still a good 2.5. No, almost 3.5 thousand kilometers until you reach the center of the Earth. You're about halfway-ish through your journey, and you're seeing stratifications and other indicators. I'm not a geologist, of stones that are probably a lot older than they should be for where they are right now. But you can also see, yes, this is how the tectonic plates have moved. This is how the stress fractures have formed. You can tell that this bulkhead door just looks like it was unfortunately jostled from not the natural tectonic shifts of the planet, but as a result of the planet's currently breaking apart.
Okay.
It looks like it was, at least in some way, designed to have been sealed over by the rock. But with that shift, it bent the door and collapsed the rock around it.
Okay. And is it in terms of the way that the door is structured, would you be locking it from the inside or the outside?
How would you... Do I want to make this a different roll? And how would you go about determining that? I will say, from the exposed part that you are seeing here, you don't see any sort of interface.
Okay. So there's no I'm thinking of the kind of wheels they use on submarines and stuff like that. So
no, this door is much more advanced than this. We're thinking like proper starship grade maglock swoosh door.
Ooh, okay.
This probably has some sort of internal magnet based computerized locking system is the best you can suss out.
Okay. Interesting. I shall share my findings with the good doctor.
The good doctor is staring at the door with some amazement, happy to see some signs of something else living, which is what he was trained to deal with. We don't see any sort of console or anything, right?
No. But currently, you are only seeing the sort of exposed area from where the door did this. So you're seeing this part sticking out and a brief little hole here that you might be able to, pry open or look down. Other than that, it's still mostly overgrown, which is not the correct term, but there's still ground sort of over top most of it that you would presumably have to,
Yeah, I
right
think
at.
I think before we start going into the thing, I think Dr. Daring would definitely try to excavate it more. Try to just use the suit to pull away stones, put them aside very gently, very slowly. I mean, he's even as an anthropologist, he's done some digs, so he knows the issues of dealing with collapsed structures and the like.
Right.
So definitely working to just put those stones aside and basically uncover the entirety of this bulkhead.
Proper archaeological excavation using little hand trowels and
Yeah.
brushes, and not
Yep.
excavators like they use on the History Channel.
Yep.
Archaeology rant aside, uh, I do think I need a roll for you on this. Because this is the textbook definition of a roll with clear consequences. You are further removing rocks from an area that just had a collapse.
Is there
So this sounds like a break plus something. Break plus make, probably.
with the how about this? I will do break plus sway, trying to direct the other doctor, my companion, to which stones to move and where to start digging.
I think that's more of a think roll.
Damn.
You will have opportunities to use sway.
I get
This
it.
is
So
not the best use for it here.
I got 2d6 then.
Sorry. You're trying to tell me how to move
Yes.
rocks? I mean,
Yes.
come on.
Yes.
I
Wait, you know how to move rocks, but you don't know how to move rocks and not destroy things while you're moving the rocks.
Listen, you don't need to rock-splain our geochronologist.
I am rock-splaining right now.
I literally read the book on this. Literally.
You wrote the book on it.
All right, so our cards, we have a free ace right there, ace of spades, and an 8 of diamonds.
Okay.
That's a little trickier.
A little less than 50% chance here, but
you can do it.
I did it exactly.
Oh, brilliant.
Except
no, because I got the -2.
Negatives, yeah. Yep.
-2, yeah. So I get the ace, yay, another ace.
Yep. Unfortunately, that 8 will have to be discarded, and this is a partial success. Complications. Okay. So, excuse me. You do take your time to do this, and you specifically said you're very much taking your time, using the appropriate equipment, getting the assistance of Dr. Undermoon, really tackling this from a well thought out archaeological and structural perspective. There are some instances where you simply couldn't prevent further collapse. You were able to shore up some areas and make sure that any of those collapses were controlled collapses and didn't injure yourself, didn't cause any damage to the suits. And it's a stressful process like everything else down here, but not overly so compared to everything else that has gone on recently. In fact, basic, archaeological labor is probably, don't want to say relaxing, but perhaps even familiarly comforting in some strange way to both of you.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, it does seem to have done further damage to this door, this hatch. There's a little bit more seismic activity, as it seems you had to remove some vaguely defined sort of capstone piece here. Large sections of stone have fallen on one side or the other, and it's made it so that the door is now really quite it's really quite bent at this point. It was just a small little overlap, but now it's sort of lipped up at one side, curled up at one side. There's dents in it. It's been sort of pulled and disfigured in a number of different ways. And this last sort of partial collapse, just before you sort of stop what you're doing, and you stop what you're doing because there is one of these collapses, and then you hear what sounds like an alarm. And a dim red flashing light coming from underneath the hatch.
How much of the bulkhead is exposed now?
You've uncovered most of the door at this point. And because you were specifically looking for some sort of interface, I will say that you've actually fully exposed the door, and like a half a foot, 3/4 of a foot around the edge of the door. If there was a control mechanism, it would probably be in vaguely that area.
And we don't see any wires coming from it leading anywhere, anything like that.
You see, actually, yeah, that was the point of the roll, really, not just to. Yeah. There is on this side. You see a panel off to the side. It has a little sort of indented circle. And I'm not going to draw this out any more than it needs to be. You press the circle, and it's just one of those simple, pop-up mechanisms. You press the circle in, the lip pops up, and you can take the panel off. And inside there is... Well, it doesn't look like the inside of a machine you're familiar with. You don't see wires and circuit boards. You see crystal-based technology. It seems that there is a sort of crystalline analogy to a circuit board, motherboard, with a number of variously different shaped and colored and etched crystals sticking out of it. And then underneath that, there's a sort of dip down even further, and there's another sort of mechanical looking mechanism there. It's probably a manual release, an emergency manual release. It looks like, from what you can see, how to describe this. Well, no, I'll just leave it there. I don't need to further complicate things.
Doctor, I suggest we maybe take cover and see if the alarm brings anybody to the door, and perhaps they'll open it from the other side, and well, we can study to see. Maybe we'll get some contact. I
So
don't
the
know,
door.
What do you think?
Sorry.
Oh, we could just use this emergency release now.
So to clarify, because I think your mind theater is a little different than mine. The door is broken to the point where it is probably non-functional. The door will have to be repaired before it can be opened properly, but it is slightly open and now askew. So you could. The shoulder area of these suits is quite round and bulky, and you can't really take the suits off here because of the corrosive gas. You might be able to squeeze through the opening at this point, or create some sort of rudimentary, or just start dropping rocks on it more. But you can get inside.
Doesn't Undermoon have like some sort of like?
You do.
Yeah.
I do. I've got a hydraulic lift. I'm just wondering, because this alarm's gone off. My concern is, will someone come to investigate this alarm going off?
Yeah.
Do we really want to be opening this thing up when someone or something comes along?
Well, Dr. Daring seems to have lapsed into one of his usual
All right.
strange catatonic states. There we go.
How long would you wait? We don't even know if anyone's on the other side.
Well, I maybe 20 minutes just to see if it brings watchers or creatures, or alert someone to our presence.
I'm willing to wait 20 minutes.
I think that's the scientific thing, is the to wait and see if our actions have caused a reaction, as it were.
Okay, so I guess we'll just go off and try to find a spot to hunker down for 20 minutes to a half hour.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can take a few paces back, prop yourself up on the other side of a stalagmite or something, a crevice in the wall. There's not a lot of places to really hide, but you can get out of the immediate vicinity and general overview of what's going on.
Yeah.
After about 5 minutes or so, and you have chronometers in your suit. We'll say less than 5 minutes passes, and the alarm and the red flashing stop. A few more minutes after that, you can see a very dim light coming out of the hole. Very dim, sort of like it's not pure white light. That sort of fluorescent, mostly white, yellowish, or probably more bluish tint light. It stays like that for a minute and a half, and then it goes dark again.
Is it moving? Like, do we see like a shifting of it, like somebody flashing a flashlight on the other side of it, or is it just a solid light?
No, it just, there seems to be a light source there that was shining out, and then it stopped. All of that in the first 6 or 7 minutes. You hear a sort of grinding sound, very low pitched, almost. You hear a low pitched grinding sound and also a very high pitched sort of screeching sound for all of 10 seconds, and then that stops. And then for the next 10, 15 minutes, no further activity.
Well, there's clearly some thing down there. I would never have. Well, this is just impossible, really, isn't it? I mean, it changes everything.
I suggest you send your beep boop bop to investigate the other side.
Yes, an excellent idea. Let's see, just to, well, see if there is, well, anything that's still moving around, and I'll send it off on its little journey to scan the area and see what we can find out.
Of course, Doctor. Very astute call. I am indeed more expendable than you. I will go and find some answers.
Excellent.
It hovers off, lowers itself down into the hole, and immediately on your HUD, you get a. How should I put this? A Beepo Bop mobility error. You hear a decisive clang coming from where it just went inside. Then there is a scientific readout of a number of different parameters, and a number of different scientific parameters, and the other a number of different diagnostic parameters for the Bebo Bop, and not like a turn off and turn back on reset, but a sort of correlative update reset. And then it seems to right itself. It stays down there for all of 30 seconds and flies back and transmits the data back over to you. Immediately, once you pass the floor of this cavern, gravity inverts. So it flew down, wasn't expecting the gravity change, and fell up. And it shows the 30 seconds of video feed it took. It seems that there is a dome of crystalline material that seems to be on the other side of this door.
If it was that information shared with Dr. Daring,
Yeah, absolutely.
then Dr. Daring is going over and trying to figure out how to open this door.
Well, the easiest answer to that is the one you pointed out earlier, and that is Dr. Undermoon's rock lifter, pneumatic hydraulic lifter device.
Yep. Do you want me to? I'll set it all up, and we should have this open in a jiffy. I'm just like,
yeah,
in place
to
push it apart.
This sounds like a break plus your item die.
Yes. So that is going to be because I've used it once before, so that makes it a D8 and a D4 that I've got.
All right, and you are going up against a 10 of clubs. That's a difficult one, and a 6 of spades, a little more forgiving.
Okay, let's see. So let's do the D4 first, because That usually doesn't go well. Yep, good stuff. Ooh, I can't win this, can I? Even with a 8, because I'm on -1. It's the best I.
Well, that's really bad.
Ooh, double ones.
You did an eye roll.
Snake eyes. Okay.
Okay, options. Let's talk about options.
Let's talk about options. Well, you have quite
Talk
a
about
few
options.
cards on
I
you.
do, yes.
You could try to flash back again.
Yep.
That's a card flip off between you and I. If you win, you roll at advantage. If you lose, you roll at disadvantage. Can't get lower than
This is
double
very
ones.
true, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess
Absolutely.
there's really no reason not to do it other than, losing cards.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's a good idea. So yes, I would like to do that, please. And I
If you
will,
can convince me you have an appropriate flashback that would provide you extra context to help you opening this door.
So I think before we set off, I think one of the things that he was doing was kind of looking at all his equipment and kind of, thinking, how am I going to use this? And what he noticed was that there was an override panel on the heavy lifter, and what he could do is he could actually push a stronger current through to give it a kind of almost like a recoil and push kind of movement to it, which would potentially cause some damage to the actual equipment itself, because
Yeah.
he's overriding it. It's
Yeah,
not meant to
pushing
be
the
used that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So sort of pushing the hydraulic pressure past its
Yes.
safe use
Safety.
parameters or something like that.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I like that.
And I would like to put my 8 of spades up for this.
Okay. Let's do that. So we'll move these.
Like you said, it couldn't
up.
get any worse.
You're offering your 8 and mission control. The portal draws a queen.
I knew it.
Good times.
I think our hit and misses, for like the extra stuff we can do with cards is like, I think we've done like one that worked.
Yeah.
Well,
Card flips don't seem to go in your favor very often.
No.
Well, awesome.
Yeah. So you would re-roll your D8 at this point, but there's
no point.
I mean, so this is an interesting rules case, because you are re-rolling the die, and you take. Let me consult the wording here, because I think you re-roll the die and you take that result, but it's a D10. So you could re-roll the D10.
D8, you mean?
You could roll a 10.
You
mean the D8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, D8. Sorry. Yeah. So you can't hit the 10, but you might be able to hit the. I mean, you'd have to roll it. You'd have to roll an 8. Well, I guess a 7. The -1. Meets it beat. Yeah. Let's see. Advantage, disadvantage. When rolling with disadvantage, re-roll the highest skill die. Yeah, and you take that result. So this disadvantage roll could actually be enough work in your favor.
Okay.
Regardless, I'm going to have you decrement your item die once again.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's. All
right. So no luck.
I mean, yeah.
So.
Oh dear.
This is a classic Classic TTRPG conundrum. What happens when you fail to open the door? Well, nothing. So, I'm going to say that this does work. It does indeed sort of tear the door open enough that you can proceed inside. One of the consequences is, of course, that it damaged the machine more than it should have. That's the double decrementing of the die. But on top of that, that's interesting. Okay. So you do manage to overclock your lifter, whatever it may be, increasing the hydraulic pressure, whatever it is. You do create a lot more force than this machine is safely supposed to use. And in doing so, you hear a heavy clang come from your machine. You're probably going to have to repair it. Before it can be used again. But you also hear a tearing, a shearing of the metal, and then an even more disconcerting plunk. And then the alarms come back on.
Yep. Ooh.
But the door has been ripped and curled open enough that you can get inside. The Bebop showed you that there's a dome that's really only slightly larger than the door itself, and this is like a bulkhead door, so it's fairly large. So you're talking a dome probably about 10 feet in diameter.
Well, there's no point in trying to disguise that we've been here, because the ripped open door would be a good indication of that.
And the 2 alarms that have gone off probably also would be. Yeah.
Well, Doctor, I guess we'll.
The light from inside.
What?
The light starts shining out from the opening once again.
Cool.
You want to hop down?
Yeah.
Daring is going first. He's down there.
Okay. You push ahead, and since you know about it now, you can kind of sort of crawl over, down, because gravity seems to be reversing itself on the other side of this door. So you just kind of lay down and worm your body over onto the other side. And you realize, you're inside a fine dome that seems to have covered up this door. Except now the crystal is transparent and light is shining through from what is on the other side. And that is probably what fascinates you, Dr. Daring, because on the other side of this dome, you see a vast cavern. We're talking cavern the size of the superheated Red Lake cavern, where it is so big that you wouldn't have any hope of seeing another wall. But unlike that one, which was in darkness, there's a sort of omnipresent light in this cavern, and it looks like you are just staring out into a wide open space. You can see the ceiling when you look. Well, it was down and now it's up. But we're talking kilometers and kilometers high. And besides that, you see chunks of rock, huge chunks of rock, small island-sized chunks of rock, floating in the air. Just floating in the air. Some are slightly listing, some are moving from side to side, up and down, back and forth, but there's just a number of Some of them are seem to be built like platforms where they're level on one side and the other. Some of them are just floating boulders anywhere from size a small car to again a small island. And it goes so far that it is almost like standing on a flat plane. You can see the curvature of the earth, except now it's the other way. It's like looking at the halo.
What's the air quality like down here?
Well, the corrosive gas is flowing down from flowing in from where you just were. So right now it is, no, it was open for no change in air quality. It is still very corrosive gas in here. I assume Dr. Undermoon shimmies down and joins you.
Yep.
Yeah. And are we on solid ground, or do we feel any sort of lift? Like if I were to jump a little bit, do I notice a difference in the gravity in terms of my gravity? Like I see these stones floating, but I'm trying to figure out if it's just those locations or is it everywhere?
At least for right now, you started up here, you climbed over, and now are standing like this. And yeah, if you jump the little bit of headspace that you have, you do fall back down to the floor.
Fall back towards the ceiling, right?
Yeah, up and down are going to be very difficult to describe for a while.
Yeah. And the floor that we're on, is that also made of the same crystal, or is that just on the walls and ceiling?
That seems to be made of it's the bulkhead.
Oh, the crystal is just on the bulkhead. Okay.
The crystal is a dome that seems to have been placed on the bulkhead.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, the bulkhead is here. You did this, and now you are in a dome.
And this dome is like what, like 10 feet radius or something like that?
About 10-foot diameter.
Yeah.
So, so 5 feet here, 5 feet there, 5 feet up/down.
There's a hole that goes out of it.
Not in the dome. No. You're in a snow globe, basically.
Right. So we can't. There's no way to get out. We'd have to.
Not that is immediately apparent, but actually, now that you're around, you see. The shift from the lifter seems to have inadvertently pulled a piece of the bulkhead away from the dome. And now that corrosive gas is flowing out into this open area. But we're talking, a seam just opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Daring, though.
Yes.
You're still fairly stressed. Yeah.
That's one word for it.
Let's see. You're at fragile laws, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. You just sort of have an inherent instinctual understanding that the laws of gravity out on the other side of this dome are being purposely manipulated, artificially manipulated. And you also realize that this crystal, you're not sure why you realize it, and you're not really sure would work, and mechanism isn't the right word, but that's all you got. This crystal is in some way malleable.
Well, right now, Dr. Daring's main concern is the gas. He wants to see if there's a way to stop it from continuously leaking into this new zone. The bulkhead is completely destroyed, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. It would need some serious repair.
I'm wondering if there's a way that I can change the mechanics of physics around me. Now, I know this isn't a true analogy, but you always hear of the seas don't mix, which isn't actually true. But the idea that there is two such different air environments that they can't come into contact with one another. It becomes like a wall between them. And I'm wondering if I can manipulate that somehow, where the corrosive gas is basically kept at bay by this new environment.
Okay. Yeah, once per deep breath, you can change an aspect of the element or force in an area. From a complication is the intent
From a
of it.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is the consequence of complication, so it would apply here.
Okay.
I would say one way you could go about doing it, and I don't know if this is exactly the physics behind what you were saying, but you could change it so that the inside of the dome is a lower air pressure than the air on the outside of the dome, so that air would naturally want to flow from the outside
Outwards.
to the inside.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Mm.
What does that look like?
Dr. Daring having a fear of hurting anything that could be down here, including the mechanisms that we have found of whoever made them. Basically just turns his head towards the door and says, "No." And there's suddenly like a shift, and I would assume our ears pop as the air pressure suddenly shifts and pushes this gas back out the bulkhead.
Right. I will say your ears don't pop because you are in a
Pressurized
confined
suit. Yeah.
Yeah. But the barometer, I think, is the instrument for measuring pressure. I believe that's the case.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
I think, Dr. Daring, you have an instinctual understanding of what's happening in some way. But Dr. Undermoon, strangely enough, and this is extremely strange, all of a sudden your barometer pressure.
Is everything? Are you seeing this, Doctor?
Yes.
Okay. I will then. I'll tend to my own suit and say, suit. Can you explain what this sudden drop in pressure is, please?
Unfortunately, Dr. Undermoon, I cannot. There seems to be a localized drop in pressure. However, to my knowledge, there is no mechanism here that should be creating a vacuum.
Okay. Right. Can you extrapolate the potential danger for us?
Insufficient data.
Of course.
However, your suits are pressurized, so even should whatever mechanism is creating this negative air pressure, should you find yourself in vacuum, you have sufficient air supply for quite some time.
Okay. A localized phenomenon, then, by the sounds of things.
While that conversation is happening, Daring has lost any interest in it and is just like sliding his hand over this so-called malleable crystal dome.
There's a ripple to it. And I'm not just talking light shimmering along where your hand touches, like in previous crystalline something, it actually, you press on it and it feels solid, but then you drag your hand across it and you leave a wake and ripples as if you just skimmed your fingertips along the surface of a calm lake. But it still feels solid. And then you notice movement out of the corner of your eye, far off a field.
I just watch that area for a moment.
Okay. It's a ways off, but you see something very rapidly move from that rock over there down to that rock over there. It just pushed off of it and then landed on that rock. Moves a little bit, pushes off that rock, and lands on another rock. Leapfrogging from platform to platform, rock to island, in your direction.
The hand pulls back as if he realizes that this thing is coming towards them. He's just going to stand and watch. He doesn't move. He doesn't. He takes his hand away from the orb and just says, "Dr. Undermoon," and he points at that thing moving towards them.
Suit, analyze, please.
Unfortunately, at the current moment, your sensory organs are taking in about as much data as my instruments are capable. Much of my instrumentation cannot penetrate this dome. It, however, looks like something is coming towards us.
Billions of dollars spent on creating the system.
I will magnify.
Thank you.
And
Stupid system.
it does have that little bit of sassiness, like, you control the magnification of your own sensors too. But
Yeah.
okay, I will magnify. And you get a zoomed in visual on your HUDs, both of your HUDs. Between your two suits, there really is one AI, and it's kind of the call between. You can. It takes a while to track it because it seems to be moving incredibly deftly, not terribly fast, but incredibly deftly. And it looks to be a humanoid figure about 10 to 12 feet tall. Hard to measure the exactness of it at the distance. Long, spindly limbs, 4 arms, and an elongated cranial structure. But that is different from the being you saw in the orb, way back up in the beginning of your journey. But not terribly dissimilar. Skin pigmentation is roughly the same. There's some, they seem to be wearing some sort of suit of some kind. But the facial structure looks similar, except this one has 4 eyes instead of just the one. I believe the one you saw earlier only 4. The leg to torso ratio is a lot higher. So the legs are a lot longer and the torso is a lot shorter. And it seems to be jumping from one island, pirouetting in the air, and falling back to another island, and then jumping off of that, flipping over where the gravity seems to shift, and landing on another island. But you do see instances where it's not a straight line, and these sort of almost bat-like membranes flow out between its upper arms and lower arms, and between its legs, creating an almost, bat-like sailing kite sugar glider scenario. And it seems
Nightmare
to be able
glider.
to, yeah, seems to be able to drift.
Well,
It'll
Dr.
probably
Daring,
take a few minutes for it to get here if there's anything you would like to discuss. Or do.
Dr. Daring is totally willing to be silent and wait for our new friend.
Hmm. Yeah, Dr. Undermoon's extremely worried about this. And in his head, he's going over the kind of protocol for first contact.
I mean, this isn't Starfleet. You have no protocol for
No,
first
no,
contact.
there is no-
absolutely.
The thought of meeting an alien civilization is not something
Exactly.
that came up in the Substratum Protocol.
And that's why he needs to have a plan.
I think that
what did they
is
do in
actually
Star Trek?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is actually a great place for us to take our break as we see Dr. Daring staring out in anticipation of meeting this life form of some kind, and Dr. Undermoon trying to quickly come to grasp that the is another life form. But let us take our break as this very alien-looking humanoid creature, person presumably, leaps and bounds its way towards this broken
Hurrah.
bulkhead that these guys just broke more.
Yeah. We're probably going to get a bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back in about 10 minutes or so.
Awesome.
Yeah, about 10 minutes or so. So go get up, do all the human functionality that you need to do, unless you're an alien with legs, sugar glider. In that case, I don't know, enjoy some fruit. We'll be back in 10 minutes, folks. Stay tuned. Hello, we are back from our break. Hope you all are too. Let's move into the next sector of Substratum Protocol, the gravity inversion sector. So, up to our intermission here, the first half, our intrepid scientist managed to open a door. I say that facetiously, knowing full well that in TTRPGs, doors are the largest obstacle. No dragon or scientific quandary can match the sheer difficulty and stubbornness of door.
There was also an elevator in World of Warcraft that was known as the elevator boss that people consistently died trying to ride.
I mean, an elevator is a type of door. All right. Yes. So our two scientists are on the upside down floor of the sector they were previously on because gravity flipped. And they are stuck inside a crystal dome that seems to have been compromised. The corrosive gas from the previous sector now flowing into the dome through the door that was breached, and now out into the greater cavern environment, thanks to an overloaded pressure loader system thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a creature, alien, person of some kind, leaping in their direction. And we will pick up there with this alien being jumping from that last nearest platform, landing on the floor, and walking over in your direction. They do appear to be wearing some sort of jumpsuit. it's not a full exosuit spaceship, spacesuit-esque whole enclosure. It just seems to be, it's kind of like a few work coveralls. It does, however, have a something over presumably its mouth and nose. And it has this sort of grayish, greenish skin. A few different striations along its cheeks and forehead. A very sort of flat face, elongated, curved cranium. 4 arms, long spindly legs, and as the creature lands, the membranes between its 2 arms and legs sort of suck back into its torso, and it does simply stride over in your direction. First, fairly lackadaisically, and routine maintenance sort of deal. And then this creature stops. Probably, 15 meters away. Tilts its head, leans in a bit, plays around with something on its forehead, pauses for a little bit, and continues walking, but slower, and now watching the dome, presumably watching you. Takes those last few cautious steps until it's, a meter or so from the dome, and leans in, looks at both of you, and then you can see all 4 eyes kind of go wide. Startles back a little bit, and squints all 4 eyes and leans in again, particularly looking at Dr. Daring.
Now that the air pressure has changed, is the air quality something that Dr. Daring would be able to breathe?
Sure. Yeah, it was simply at first to stop the gas leaking from this environment into the exterior, but you can go the step further and the problem is I don't think you can get the corrosive gas out without also clearing all the air out. You would need a filtration system for that.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to try to be a little bit more diplomatic and have my helmet off for this, but I guess Dr. Daring would do the universal sign of disarmament and greeting by putting up his hands and saying, "Hello, my name is Dr. Daring."
Are you speaking?
At first, I'll just speak English. If there is no response, then he will start cycling through languages.
Yeah. And you have your
Universal
translator
for any languages I don't know.
Yeah. So they see you do this, lean in, hold one of their 4 hands up in the universal sign of hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Takes another one of his hands and presses it against the side of the dome. And then through the dome. And moves part of the dome out of the way. As if he was just pushing his hand through jello and the crystal just recedes. There's a sort of crinkling to it. There's a lot of reflection and refraction of light being scattered by this crystal rapidly changing shape. But it does open up into a portal that is probably just too small for you to fit through.
Dr. Daring's not going to take a step forward as there has not been an invitation to do so yet. So he's going to stand there. If there hasn't not been any verbal communication yet, he's still cycling through languages. I'm assuming that's going to take quite a while to cycle through all the languages that are in this system until he finds something that works.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like, oh, hello, my name is Dr. Daring. Hello, like there's a pause between each one to see if there's a response, and then it'll cycle a new one.
Right. Okay. This creature, being person, does continue to just sort of look at you in a sort of questioning manner. A very alien feature, so it's difficult to really get a proper psychological grasp, but nothing seems hostile at the moment. And your universal translator has vaguely decoded the written language that you've seen here, the combination of a number of different alphabets. But you haven't heard it spoken aloud yet.
Yeah.
The only other being you've communicated with was that crystalline geode entity, which was speaking to you through binary, basically. You see it sort of tap along its forehead, where you can see there seems to be some sort of device on his head. And it begins speaking. I'm not going to try to come up with an alien language on the fly, but it begins speaking in a tongue that you don't recognize. Pull out your universal translator, sample the language, try to match sounds with symbols, pauses with grammar and syntax. And it takes a little bit of back and forth, because you do have to you speak in what's it you speak in ancient Egyptian for a little bit, and you speak in some other really early languages,
Aramaic, Sumerian, stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. Some languages we don't know what they sounded like, but
Right.
really old languages. And slowly the universal is starting to take pieces of each of these languages to fill things out. You're probably standing there for a good 10-15 minutes, using hand signals and repeating yourself, listening to what this creature is saying. But eventually, it does begin to translate. You can understand now, yes? Registering understanding.
Understanding has been accomplished.
You are not an architect.
No, we are human. At least I once was, until very recent.
Leans in to just sort of face with the exterior of where the dome was, not leaning his head through the hole, right up to it. Sort of really does the up and down, studies your face. Your form should not have reached this physiology yet. And you travel with one who is much more appropriate to this stage. How did you come to be here?
There has been some geographical anomalies happening on the surface of this world we have come here to explore.
Exploration. For the purpose of exploration, purely.
For the purpose of finding out what is happening, because we have figured out that the source of this disturbance is coming from beneath the world, and have decided to attempt to stop it because it is causing us many issues above.
Disruption of the progress of the project has been logged. Maintenance is underway. Your presence here is unnecessary and inappropriate.
As a being who has been changed by said project, I would like to know more about what is happening.
None of the exterior what's the word I'm looking for? None of the exterior variables, environmental or otherwise, should have resulted in.
Sorry, say that again. You cut out a little bit.
Are we doing that already?
You have been, but we've been working through it.
Great. All right. Well, so much for that cleanup I did. The being said, none of the exterior variables, environmental or otherwise, should have resulted in this physiological change.
But yet, and he motions to his head, and as long as he knows that it's safe, will remove his glove to show the elongated fingers, and
It is very much not safe to remove your glove.
Okay,
You're
so
still in a corrosive environment.
yeah, but like pointing out his eye, the elongated head. So either the project has gone faster than you originally planned, or something else has gone wrong. Either way, this should be investigated.
May I ask a question?
No.
Who are you?
No.
How would you designate yourself?
Yeah, we'll say the universal trans. We did this with the crystalline entity.
Yeah.
Universal translators tied into the between you.
It would be like a speaker that would, like, basically as he speaks, it would speak in the.
Yeah. This being does, you see, it's focusing intently on Dr. Daring, and you just see its upper left eye sort of flick in your direction, and then slowly turn the rest of its head. Sort of tilts its head to one side in the universal gesture of looks back to Dr. Daring. As stated previously, my designation identifier is inconsequential and inappropriate at this time. Suffice to say, you can think of me as an overseer.
An overseer of what exactly?
Of this.
Hmm. And by this, how would you describe what this is in your terms?
Quick pause, quick pause. Okay. Interesting. I believe the designation that you would have no understanding of either, but I will use what is at best most appropriate for this breach in protocol. Project Kai would have been translated down through the various splinter tongues as Project Gaia or Project Earth, even. This world and all that inhabits it.
And he'll kind of go back on himself thinking, trying to absorb all of that and not wanting to be the center of conversation, because this is not his remit whatsoever. But just taking on board that this is quite a big statement.
Dr. Daring, you register, again, it's hard to really pin down expressions on such an alien face, but you do. It looks like this being. Their face is sort of scrunched in a almost frustrated sort of way. Again, not really hostile, but that sort of scrunching of your face when you're working on a project and it's just not working.
Mm-hmm.
Refocuses intently back on Dr. Daring. Are there others of your kind who have made this physiological change?
We found one body trapped within crystal that shares similar physiological characteristics to my form now. But as far as I know, we have not received any word back from our leaders that this has occurred up on the surface yet.
The humans are all of this variety.
Yes.
Motioning his head over to Dr. Undermoon. Then this change occurred during your descent, your travels here.
Correct.
Highly irregular, highly inappropriate. There's a sort of frustrated sigh, looking back and forth. You can't see its mouth. He has a similar, looks like a combination rebreather and caster situation, little intercom system. Plays around with that chip thing on his forehead for. I suppose the project has already been compromised, at least in this hopefully minute degree. If you are already down here, perhaps you may be of assistance. There is maintenance that requires input that we do not have. Not up to date. Shakes his head, reaches over to the opening in the dome, Actually, while you were talking, he moved his hand over to the side where the seam had lifted up and molds the crystal back against the floor, and then reaches over and molds a sort of doorway out of this crystal. Sort of side eyes each of you, pivots to one side, using one of its forearms to motion you out. It was not our intention to engage with the populace of this world for much later in the project.
Dr. Daring will step through and look around a bit, but quickly his attention is quickly drawn back to this entity. When was the last time you did contact my species?
We have not had direct contact with the human population. Our last interfacing with your species, or I should say your ancestor species, was shortly before the emergence of civilization on your planet, on the surface.
So about 4,000, 6,000 years ago?
Sort of stares off into the distance a little bit, touches that forehead chip again. I believe a more appropriate chronology would be about 26,000 years ago.
Dr. Daring will take that in for a moment and just kind of think. How old was the symbol that he found that put him on this whole course to begin with?
Let's see, Dr. Daring discovered a prehistoric Neanderthal proto-religion. Religious iconography from around the world. Are you referring to the Triskelion symbol, or
The Neanderthal thing that he had found.
okay, yeah. Sorry, what what was your question?
How old was that?
That was roughly from about 42 to 46,000 years ago.
Did you have contact with the hominid species that were taking residence on this world before us? We call them Neanderthals. I do not know if you have a different name for them.
Yes, them and several other species, ancestors, proto-humans.
I will ask one more question before we assist you on this task that you. What was your dealings with them?
I do not wish to compromise. I do not wish to compromise the integrity of this project any further than it is graded. It is intriguing that your kind have managed to make it down this far. Should have been quite a journey, if I understand the world above correctly. It has been quite some time since we have had reason to maintain anything higher than this level.
It has been, what, 8 months now since we
Something like
started this
that.
journey? Yeah.
Yeah.
I inform him how long it's been. And it has not been easy. But you have answered many of our questions, and I'm sure that we will have many questions afterwards. But said there was something you did. Well, before I say that we should assist you, Dr. Undermoon, do you have anything you wish to ask or say?
Just one thing. Are we an experiment?
An experiment. I presume by your definition you could regard this as a part of a much larger experiment. In the broadest definition of the term.
And that hits him quite squarely in the face.
Unprepared for such answers, I should refrain further.
Yeah. Just muttering to yourself, just an experiment.
What is your current understanding of the crisis?
I'm guessing that's just the information from our portal clues currently, right?
That could be one way to interpret that question.
We are working off very little knowledge about what is exactly happening. And then I give him the various geographical or geological issues that have been happening, the giant crevasse that was created from it, the various things that we have found as we went down into the center of the earth and our journey to it.
Well, you have managed to piece together some interesting data along your journey. However, I do believe you lack the refined understanding required to properly grasp the issue as a whole.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Well, compromising the integrity of the project, your arrival down here could be fortuitous. We might not have to scrap the entire project. There is maintenance that is already being undertaken by myself and other overseers, other custodians. However, there are elements of repair that require I am uncertain how to translate this into a means that you would understand. This project operates in a sense as a whole. Our mechanisms.
You cut off right at the end of that sentence. This project works off of what?
This project operates ultimately as one whole, one singular parameter, broken down, of course, into many other subsets of data. However, the distinction between yourself, yourselves as individuals, yourselves as society, and yourselves as the entirety of the human race, I believe you call yourself, is not ultimately distinct from the entity that is the entire project, the scope of the entire project. You may perhaps understand this more rudimentarily, and this is incorrect, technically, but a close enough approximation. A planetary psychosphere. You're familiar with other planetary phenomenon, magnetosphere, atmosphere, of course. There is a permeating link. There is no need, and once again is inappropriate for me to define. We do, however, require. It would be helpful for the continuation and maintenance of this project to have a more up-to-date data set on this collective psychosphere.
What would that require?
Emotions. Sorry, what was that?
What would that require?
I will be able to operate much of the mechanism, for lack of better term. Calibrate what needs to be calibrated. However, it is actually fortuitous that the humans, you, have decided to undertake this expedition. I presume there is an ultimate goal to this expedition, attempting to find the source.
Yes, and to attempt to, if it's possible, stop the destruction of our society.
I cannot speak to your society, though it is likely the journey you are already undertaking will hopefully ultimately conclude in the result most favorable to you. Interfacing with the Foundation, with our maintenance and custodial duties, calibrations, should be enough, hopefully. A larger data set would help, but the two of you, contaminated as you are, should suffice.
I am willing if you are, Dr. Undermoon, unless you have.
No objections. Anything we can do to help, we'll. Yes, of course. And he's very kind of like, like he's lost his place in the world.
This being, alien person, does step right up to Dr. Undermoon. If you would stand your ground, or if you would scrabble backwards.
I'll stand my ground.
Okay. It doesn't look like this
For
person is
science.
trying to, stare you down or anything. But he is over and is very decidedly physically looking down on you. You can't really speak to his psychological standpoint, but does stand right up in front of you, sort of looming over, bends down in an almost uncanny valley sort of way. There's a bend in his movement that just is not human. The other way looms over and reaches out with one of his hands and just presses against your exosuit.
Okay. Yeah. It's fine.
You recognize this look because it's the look you give a pile of rocks.
Mm-hmm.
It's the look
Ugh.
Dr. Daring gives to a tablet he just brushed the dust off.
Mm-hmm.
The look a medical, a cage full of rats.
Oh. Oh.
Your physiology, as he pauses there and looks over to Dr. Daring with his very different physiology at this point, at least facial structure wise, shakes his head, looks back at Dr. Undermoon. Your physiology is not as mutable as our own. Another side eye, sort of questioning of Dr. Daring. And I'm not entirely certain of the structural capabilities and parameters of this suit you wear.
While this is happening, Dr. Daring is studying every move this thing is making. Certain ticks, certain like expressions. Like he wants to be able to read this thing in the future if he's ever able to. So he's
Sorry, you were
very.
cutting off there. You want to what?
I'm studying this thing's expressions, its movements, its basic demeanor. It is alien to us, and we are currently unable to decipher its like emotional state through its face. Dr. Daring is making a conscious effort to read it as it's looking at things that are curious to it, as things are frustrating it or not frustrating it. He is very much studying its expressions, its changes of expressions as these emotions read through what it's saying and its overall demeanor, so that he has a better way of like going like if there's ever a time where he has mal intent, he would be able to read it.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and give me. I mean, I think what makes the most sense is think plus sway.
Okay,
Unless you have another suggestion.
that's fine with me.
Let's see, back over here. And we have a 9 of diamonds and a 9 of clubs.
All right. Well, I have
So
a
you get it or
D10.
you don't.
I have a D10 and a D6 -2, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you got this.
No, I don't.
Okay, 5 plus 3 minus 2 is 6.
You've got spare cards though.
I do. What's the best thing I can do is give myself advantage.
Yeah, we could do a card flip off for a back. Get the
We lost it.
otherwise. Really, I'm speaking right into the microphone. I wish I could. Why this is? I'm not seeing any dropped frames. I'm not. It's the strangest thing. All right. What was I saying? Yeah, flashback is probably your only option, unless you have 3 pairs of suited cards to give yourself a +3.
I have 2 pairs of suited cards.
Yeah, not going to do it, unfortunately.
And my highest card is a 7. Well, I either do it or I don't, I guess.
All right. These down there. This time you're offering your 7. I will try not to mumble. You're offering your 7 against.
Poof.
Jokers are deleted. Against a 6 of hearts, you win.
Right. So I reroll my d10. I mean, they're both at half of the dice, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah, reroll your d10.
Less. Okay. That is an 8. Still, wait. No. Yeah, it's an 8.
5
Yeah.
plus 7 is... no, because you're taking the 3. You rerolled the 10. So 7 plus 3 is 10, minus 2 is
Minus
8.
8. So then I can do this. Right?
Yeah, sacrificing a 3 of spades and an ace of spades. For a +1, that will get you to the 9.
Yes.
So it took you some
Double
cards
victory.
to manage, but you got it.
Technically, I only lost 1 card out of that deal.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
And you got 2 9s.
Yeah.
Yeah, good cards to have. Okay. Yeah, I will let you know going forward if there's any noticeable psychological projection from his demeanor. Right
Mhm.
now, you get the sense that they really are just looking at a test subject that has gone wrong. They might as well
A specimen, yeah.
Yeah, specimen that has gone wrong. They might as well be looking at a beaker of purple liquid, thinking, "Why is this purple? It should be clear."
Yeah. So when I notice that, I go, so what is it that you expected of a normal specimen that this particular one does not have?
Currently, you are the more concerning element here. This other one, motions towards Dr. Undermoon, is much more in line to our projections of what your species should be physiologically and intellectually capable at this time.
Well, I mean, I would hope that I'm a superior species than others you might come across. I do have a very high IQ, you know.
He likes rocks.
Interesting. This apparatus you wear, does it have does at this point does a full 360 around Dr. Undermoon, sort of crouches down? No, certainly not. At the very basic, do you have any sort of rudimentary thrust capability?
Yes, I believe so.
Actually, I do not believe this suit has a jetpack or
Well,
anything.
Perhaps not then.
I mean, the best we've talked about before, you can like shoot small amounts of air out to direct you, but nothing
Not an Iron Man
powerful.
suit.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
You can see it stand up, sort of stretch its back, probably cresting above 11 feet tall at this point. Sort of look relative up and out, stares off in that distance, presses against the chip in its forehead. I move this over here so I can watch if the green line disappears. Seems to stand there for a second, shakes its head with a bit of a sigh. More maintenance, but I suppose it is required. He leans in and articulates to a degree that he doesn't with Dr. Daring in an almost condescending, you're talking to somebody who doesn't speak the language.
Yeah.
Try not to be afraid. Everything will be fine. And then your stomach lurches as gravity just flips and you are falling out in both of you, falling out into the distance.
Cool. Yep.
Does Dr. Undermoon scream?
Oh, of course he does.
Okay.
So while you are flailing and screaming, what about Dr. Daring?
I think Dr. Daring's like there will be an initial just like, but then as he realizes what's happening, he just like closes his eyes for a second, recenters himself, and is like, this is what I'm here for. Like this is everything I have ever wanted. And so he's willing to go through hell and high water to collect himself and go with this, wherever it may take him.
So you can see as you two start falling into the sky, a lot of words aren't meaning what they're supposed to mean anymore. You start falling into the sky, and this being jumps off. Maybe not falling, or maybe he's falling with style. You're not sure. But they spread their arms. That membrane comes across between their legs, and you can tell now that they do seem to have some sort of glove on each of their hands, and even on their feet, presumably. And this being sort of spirals along with you, making slight adjustments as it's going, and sort of bending gravity, space-time. You're not sure. But you get the sense that this being is controlling the flow of here. And not without some fairly obvious consequences. You can see as you are moving towards one of these floating structures, it shifts a bit. And you continue falling. This being will actually hold back for a little bit and go on correcting what just happened. But eventually, you see floating in the center of the cavern, between the floor ceiling and the ceiling floor, is this almost like double-ended obelisk made of crystal. And some areas of the crystal are opaque, and some areas of the crystal are transparent. You can see movement on the inside. And then some of those transparent areas go opaque, and opaque areas go transparent. You see more movement on the inside. It looks like light is coming out from it. It looks like there are people, these beings presumably, inside doing things there. And then you realize the sheer scale of it. And as you are falling through the old, you realize this is, you're looking at a building that's, twice the size of say the Empire, just sort of floating in the center of this immense cavern. And you eventually make your way there. You land on the side of this structure. Of course, direction at this point is almost irrelevant. But you land on the side of this structure. This being, this overseer, bends down, shapes a doorway into the crystal, and just walks into the inside of the building, completely naturally correcting the shift in gravity. Your transitions are probably a lot less graceful. You get inside just the same. He closes the wall once again, and you can see there's not a ton of these beings in here, and it does seem to be a building in a room on a mini building. But there's a few of these beings around here. They don't all look the same. They don't all have 4 arms. Some of them have eyes, have 2 eyes. Some of them are taller, some of them are shorter. You see, actually, over in the corner of this, it looks like there is a much more stockier version of this person. But instead of legs, they're just sort of embedded in the crystal. They have 8 arms, all interacting with different panels. Their facial structure is actually a lot wider and more curved in this direction, and you can see they have a number of eyes all around the curve of their skull. They probably have like a 220 degree field of vision. Obviously, all of these other ones notice you. Some of them just go back to what they were doing. Some of them stop and give you various looks. Dr. Daring, you can make out that this is ranging from intrigue to why the fuck are you playing with the rats? Put it back in the cage.
Oh no!
We're gonna have to scrap the entire this entire data set. But the overseer moves you throughout this building. And into what looks to be, to your best estimate, a highly advanced sci-fi alien crystal-based conference room.
Those stupid phones lined up and down the table.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
No, but there is a table that looks like it. Actually, there's nothing in the room to begin with. It's just a flat box, and he walks over to the center of the room and pulls a table made of crystal out of the floor. Just grabs onto the crystal, lifts it up, draws it out. There you go. You got a table. Crystal crafts some rudimentary chairs for you. Actually, not rudimentary. Very. He motions for you. They motion for you to take a seat. Stop. You can be removed from these apparatus. Yes?
As long as the air quality is something we can breathe and there's no air differential. The reason why we had him, I actually wish to say hello to you without my helmet, but the air there was corrosive.
He does. They do take off their own rebreather. Your physiology still breathes a mixture of mostly oxygen and nitrogen. Your pollutants have not created any other chemical dependencies.
Not that I am aware, no.
That's doesn't, you know.
Then the air quality should suffice.
Then Dr. Daring will begin removing his helmet, but not really. Like, he puts his hand out to Dr. Undermoon to like pause him just in case something goes wrong. But he does remove his helmet and takes a couple of deep breaths before, and if everything goes okay, can like wave Dr. remove. Well,
Very hesitantly, he will follow suit.
Yeah. Extremely fresh air. It's not like standing in a meadow. There's really no scent at all, but this seems to be a perfect ratio of oxygen and nitrogen without all the other crap floating in the air you're used to on the surface. This is perfect atmosphere.
Nice.
In fact, both of you, you don't get lightheaded, but you do get a very slight sense of euphoria, probably a little bit more in here than you're generally used to.
Yep.
Do you take the whole suit off, or do you just, pop the dome?
Just the
Well,
dome.
unless specifically invited to do so, it would just be the helmet.
If you would be more comfortable, feel free to disembark. It is not required, however. He motions for the two of you to take a seat. He stands over to one side of the table, pulls some of the crystal out of the ground, sits on it, and it does just perfectly shape to his form. Not like in a lazy, way, but in like the perfect custom built, armchair made out of crystal. But you can sit down. It's surprisingly comfortable for what should be stone, rock, crystal. I will warn you that there is a possibility, a non-zero probability, that the integrity of this project has already been compromised to a degree that is ultimately irreparable. We are uncertain if the custodians here will be able to reverse the changes in time. Interestingly enough, it does seem that some of the psychosphere, as we are calling it, is beginning to repair itself. Slowly. You are one of the more volatile. One of the more volatile specimens.
Unfortunately, I can believe that.
Interesting. I will attempt to explain, and these definitions are incorrect. However, as I stated, you lack the necessary intelligence and education to grasp and understand these sciences. But consider where you are now to be a sort of gravimetric scaffolding and space-time insulator for the planetary superstructure.
Okay.
Below this point, coreward, is the main mechanism for the project. Above us, surfaceward, has been isolated from here and below for quite some time. Supervised, surveilled, documented, with minor nudges here and there when appropriate. Unfortunately, the volatility of your societies has caused this premature, degradation of the entire project. Your kind are very, as I said, volatile, and have been producing waste products and other disruptive elements in quantities we did not expect, given the short amount of time it has taken to destabilize the superstructure. We did not imagine in only a few hundred that you would be able to damage this project as much as you have. Interesting data, though. A failed experiment is just as scientifically useful as a successful. You see a very slight smile is the best you can equate Dr. Daring as he looks at Dr. Undermoon when he makes that comment about successful experiments or not.
I mean, this would be more of a question from Dr. Undermoon, but my question would be, how would the pollutants cause geographical tumultuousness on this scale?
Once again, you lack what is needed to comprehend the answer, and in fact, your question is not even entirely correctly phrased. You must think of this entire project as the sum of all of its parts. Your people have become quite divisive, especially of late, and it seems in the past 100 years has been tending towards larger and larger degrees of disunity. On top of that, you are creating a number of dangerous pollutant byproducts, both those you are aware of and many that you are not. I believe your question stems from a lack of observable data. There is little that your carbon footprint or electromagnetic static or any singular pollutant that I believe your level of intelligence can grasp. You are, however, creating many more destabilizing factors.
I mean, I appreciate the honesty. It hurts, but I appreciate the honesty.
So in this case, then, what is the policy of your people to, what do you do next?
It would be inappropriate for me to answer that question degree that I'm sure you would find satisfying. As I said, we are attempting to correct. The planet is coming apart at a rather fascinating speed.
I'm
Again, more than
studying. I'm
simply-
so I'm studying his face right now. Is he basically now? Perhaps Dr. Daring hasn't had to do this, but he's definitely worked with scientists that have. Is he basically, from my facial expression reading, deciding whether or not that we should just be wiped out and start again?
You don't recognize any malicious intent to purposely purge the experiment and start again. It may be a foregone conclusion that that is the result of the experiment, but you don't feel like he has his hand hovering over the big red button.
But from what I'm reading from him, he just expects us to wipe ourselves out, basically, and then they'd have to restart the project anyway.
Yes, the way it's speaking, the way they're speaking, the way they're you can read them. Yeah, it's sort of like visiting your grandparents or whoever in an assisted living hospice care or something. They are looking at people who are on their deathbed, and there might be things that can help. There might be treatments that can lessen some of the complications, but you get the sense that there is a distinct possibility that the human race is running out of, not a certainty, and there's no real emotional attachment to it. It's not like, oh no, my dog's lab rat has a weird growth. Interesting.
I, just. Ugh. This is all very, very upsetting for Dr. Undermoon.
Have you done this project with other species? Not on this world.
If you do not already have the answer to that question, it is inappropriate for me to answer myself.
Dr. Daring takes that as a yes. um, has there ever been a time where you have attempted more direct guidance?
Yes.
I'm supposing that did not go well.
In some instances.
Was there ever an instance where it did go well?
Yes.
And in all of those instances, was it only with species at a primeval state of their society, or did you ever attempt to do it when the society was at a more industrialized and technologically advanced state?
You are an inquisitive people, I will give you that. There is a fairly high probability that neither will survive this journey. And with the project already being fairly compromised and its continuation uncertain. One moment. Turns to the side, again pressing at the chip on its forehead. You get the sense from body movement, facial movement, that it's having a conversation with, not verbally, but having a conversation with somebody. You can see a range of possible emotions, intrigue to, not pleading, but almost, like putting in a request.
Yep.
A little bit of what may be an art back and forth. Nothing terribly heated, but an exchange of discontinuous discord. Turns back. I suppose it would be an interesting new variable to oversee. Please, you have asked many questions that are difficult for me to answer with understanding. What was it you...
I had asked if there was ever a time that your projects attempted to interact and guide a species once already in technological and industrial advance.
We usually wait until a populace has a far more developed intelligence and education. You are... Well, it has been rather fascinating documenting intellectual growth of your species. It seems to be taking off exponentially. You have accomplished in the last 200 years a vast leaps unseen in the past 2,000 years. Should this trend continue, it is likely we will out to contact you sometime in the next...
You cut out at after
Yeah.
over the next
sometime over the course of the next 15,000 years. However, your lack of understanding, and thus a much more contextually anchored viewpoint, could be what we need to help facilitate the expediency of the repair of this psychosphere. They say with a twitch of the eye, using a terminology that they know is incorrect.
Dr. Daring will sit back in his chair, arms crossed in his lap, and just look over at Dr. Undermoon, and his facial expression is unreadable. There's no fear, there's no shock at any of this, almost as if he had kind of already thought that there was something like this happening, which would tie back to his understanding that all of this ties back to something before. So to him, this is just an acknowledgement of something he already kind of figured out, even if he didn't understand any of it. And he probably still doesn't, but this is still like compounding on his previous axioms of what was going on even before any of this stuff was happening. He's good friends with that guy from the History Channel.
Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
Yes.
This is not good. This is not good at all.
Well, most of and he'll look back at this individual, most of the more intellectuals of our species already has this understanding that the human race is not long for this universe.
Interesting.
And they are consistently warning those in power to do something about it. And there's many within the overall population that understand the same. Unfortunately, the economic system that we have chosen to partake in as a people drives for greed rather than the benefit of all. And thus, if there are a lot of these pollutants, as you call them, I would assume to be created by the ever obtainment of said greed. My advisements would be, if possible, to connect with those who are of this understanding, who have a better societal intelligence, as you would call it. I, from my understanding, have, because I am not a ecologist, we are at a point where there has been irreparable damage done to the world, but not to the point where it is inevitable that it ends. Perhaps a new project is in order.
As you are saying this, there's a slight up curve to the corner of its mouth. He found that all very amusing.
Oh, this is awful.
A fascinating analysis of your current situation. Not entirely incorrect, but mostly. I apologize. I should have worded that differently. We had taken into account various parameters for your primitive societies and psychologies. Those parameters have exceeded in some areas in a disruptive fashion. Interestingly enough, we have recorded a surprising correction over the past year or so. However, I do not believe that will be enough to passively heal the problem. Again, another twinge of a scientist using a term that they know is very... You have limited communication with those on the surface, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Perhaps when possible, you can communicate with them on a more frequent basis, get an understanding of what is happening up there. The next question would be, which of you should be the control specimen, and which of you should be a catalyst, let's say? I am interested to hear your thoughts on the matter.
Well, that's probably something we'll need to discuss if that's okay with yourself.
The being leans back on this crystalline chair, and it does, whereas before it was a very nice office chair, does just lean back in comfortable reclined position and just flows with the curvature of his body.
I can't believe we're going to have this conversation.
I can.
So, feel free to talk this out. I know we are butting up on time here. Feel free to talk this out. But the answer to this question will be who is going to, because this
Who is going to
We
what?
don't know
who is going to roll for the portal clue, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Currently, what was the baseline? Think?
Yes, think plus something.
Yeah, my think's at D4 right now.
But again, consider the narrative implications.
Yeah.
Who would be the control group and which of you would be the catalyst? I will leave it to you to put definitions and context for those clues, those words.
I think that Dr. Undermoon would be the control. I mean, Dr. Daring is already changed.
Yeah. I mean, that would, well, yes. That does make sense. Because
but devil's advocate, flip side of the coin, and I'm not saying one way or the other, but the other side of that statement is Dr. Daring, having changed, may have maybe a better bridge between what was / is and what will be / could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't be a control for the human race because I've changed. If that's what they're looking for. If they're looking for specifically the human race and what they are and they
But they
need
haven't-
that to be stable. They can't have me, Dr. Daring, as the control to then go, oh, okay, this is what we're coming from.
Sure.
Hmm.
If you're talking from a physiological standpoint.
Well, I'm pretty sure Daring's. I mean, I've also been changing my way of that I've been speaking as Dr. Daring, because there's definitely been some mental and not only physiological but also mental changes as well. You don't go through what he just went through, and other things don't change.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you are right. I think. I get. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Yeah, the control rat can't be the rat that's already gone through a treatment.
Sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. As much as Dr. Undermoon would like to think he's special, he's not that type of special in this situation.
You have our answer, Jack.
Okay. I assume you convey this to your new overseer friend.
Yes.
Both of those words used very loosely.
How long do you think that debate goes for, though, Dr. Undermoon?
A little while, because in his head, he is desperately trying to find a way where he is not the control.
Hmm.
That he is not
Interesting.
just part of the rat race, as it were. If he's going to be a rat, he would hope that he's an outstanding one and not indicative of the group as a whole. But
I like that.
all the information, I can't. The science doesn't support me saying that I'm not the control. Ugh.
Yeah. Dr. Undermoon has lived this life in the assumption, the headspace that you are special, you are gifted, you are
Yeah,
better than
absolutely.
everybody else. And now the alien is asking which of you two is the normal one? Which of you is the least common denominator of your...
God, that's awful. That strikes at his very core.
Okay. Yeah, and Dr. Daring, you can tell as relaxed of a position this being has moved into, you can tell they are following this conversation with great interest. Very well. Interesting choices. However, I would have said that regardless. I am very purposely going to tell you, looking at Dr. Undermoon, this person has not bothered to ask. You don't ask the rat what their name is, but speaks to you, Dr. Undermoon. I am very purposely going to tell you. Just continue as you were. And actually stands up and turns and starts walking over to Dr. Daring. Steps right up to. I assume you've taken a seat at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you stand on their approach?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dr. Daring, specifically.
No, unless
Okay.
asked to.
Sure. No, not specifically. Does walk to the side of the table with Dr. Daring. Does just sort of loom over you, looking around. Yeah, You don't ask the rat permission to pick it up. He just takes one of his hands and just puts it almost like mind meld style on your face.
Oh.
Takes another hand and puts it, around chest level of your suit. Uses a third hand to, play around with the device on his forehead. And another one pulls a section of crystal out of the table, and it becomes
right up my nose. Wow, sorry.
no, pulls a chunk of crystal out of the table and morphs it into a actually seemingly functional tablet of some kind.
Dr. Daring is completely still and is allowing all of this to happen.
They do pause there, tilt their head, look at you questioningly, and gives a sort of satisfied nod. Not quite good doggy, but
Wow.
I suppose given your degree of societal development, I am going to attempt to impart to you some of the understanding is an incorrect term. Impart to you a new instinctual grasp of some concepts that will be required. Are you properly prepared?
Much as one of my kind can be. Yes.
You get as much as out, and then reality drops away from you. Go ahead and roll me that think something check. I think think plus sway would make a lot of sense here.
Give me my cards. Let me know what fear I have ahead of me.
Yep. Feel free to call on any of the exosuit systems with the cards you have. But let's see what we're working with. We have a 2 of hearts. That's an easy one. And a 10 of spades. And I will remind you to get the need both cards. Otherwise, you are just unlocking sort of vague understanding for future application.
Can I sacrifice cards after the rule? Is that in the rule set?
It isn't defined, but we've been going off that as far as the boost action. Yeah, you can sacrifice. I think that's fine. The cards are there to be spent, so
yeah.
8 minus 2 equals 6.
Okay, so you need another 4 somehow.
Yeah, and I would be rolling the d10. So
yeah.
Sacrifice for your own flip flashback. I can get advantage on this. Wait, not that one. Oh no, I lost it. It's gone forever. Take card. I want to do this one because why is it behind the thing now? Because I have another club just in case I want to sacrifice cards.
Right. So you are offering a 9 versus a 7. You got it.
So I re-roll the d10. Okay. That's going to be 8.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4. 10.
Okay. So you have 2 hearts here to sacrifice, and 2 clubs here to sacrifice.
Dump your whole hand.
Did I fit that all on the overlay?
This is so important, Dr. Daring. He needs to get this done.
All right. And I think this is perfectly representative of just how taxing this is for you.
Yes.
But go ahead and claim both of those cards. You very much earned them. And this is another D6 outright.
All right. What did I do last time? I think I did singles, right?
Yeah, so you're going to be 10s.
Yeah, I'll be 10s. 5. 55.
55. All right. That's Portal Knowledge. We need Portal Clue. 55. Okay. Interesting. So, the Overseer walks up, starts touching you all over, asks for the bare minimum of consent. The fact that she made an all seemed to have been enough for it, and your world just goes black. And you realize you feel yourself blink, except not really, because you don't really feel your body anymore, but you have that sort of instinctual feeling a few times, like your eyes are adjusting, and you realize it's not just black. There's pinpricks of light all over the place. Stars all over the place. 360, up, down, side to side. And then you see this swirling gas cloud. Swirling, swirling, chunks of rock beginning to form and pull together. And you watch over the course of a minute or so the creation of the core of the Earth. Except you see very briefly, as this gas and rock is beginning to form, something almost like a shooting star shoots down into it. And there is a pulse of some kind. The rock and the gas seems to be displaced like a shockwave. And then again, slowly, you get the understanding that it's slowly taking millions and billions of years, but all happening in the course of 30 seconds, reforms around something that is inside there now. And the darkness begins to creep in, and you get sort of lens flare halos in the pinpricks of starlight in the distance. You feel your brain hurt, your psyche hurt. And appropriately, in a strange way, you sort of get that math meme in your head. You just start seeing formulae pop up around you. You are not grasping these highly mathematics and physics, but you have an understanding. You now know that you don't know enough to comprehend how it works, but you do know that it works this way. You don't know exactly what that way is, and you don't know how that way works, but you know it works. And yes, that is confusing. As confusing as that explanation probably was. And your mind is filled with not the knowledge, but a sort of instinctual, intuitive kernel. The basis for beginning to understand all of these things you know you understand. but the darkness does encroach around your vision. The light halos do spread and become blinding and disorienting, and all of this knowledge this understanding you don't understand, you lose sight of the development of the Earth. It's going on in the background, but you can't focus on anything as it is actually functionally happening. Dr. Undermoon. This all takes place in the real world in the course of or so. Dr. Daring all of his muscles tense at once and sort of shoot straight back as if electrocuted. Eyes roll back, or now eye roll back in the side of its head. Slight convulsing. And you managed to do this without the devil's bargain I was going to like I did last time. So there is no additional strain. Dr. Daring, you simply come out of it feeling more than you were before.
I've won the game as far as I'm concerned.
The being nods to you, steps back, and gives a nod to Dr. Daring. I believe this concludes all that I think, all that I have been granted permission to intervene. The deeper levels are dangerous. More so than previous. Simply keep that in mind. I shouldn't say much else. However, I can take you to where I believe the next leg of your journey begins. Turns to Dr. Undermoon again. We will be traveling again. Try to contain yourself. Walks over to the wall, swipes down a doorway, motions you outward, and then you are falling again.
Yep. Screaming again.
Yep. And that is where we are going to leave things tonight.
What a terrible day for Dr. Undermoon. He's just a specimen in a petri dish.
That is one way to look at it.
That's how he's looking at it.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, no.
Two fascinating interpretations and interactions between our two doctors here.
Ooh, look at you. You're special.
Yeah, but I'm Icarus. I'm the one that's wings are going to melt as I tumble back down to the ground, to be fair.
Out of the two of us, I'm more likely to not die.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right, so a little bit different of an episode today. This was less dangers of the expedition and dangers of existential crisis of knowledge.
Yep.
But I hope you guys had fun and the audience had fun. A little bit different of a take on simply moving from one treacherous environment to the next.
No, I enjoyed it. Dr. Undermoon hated it with every fiber of his body.
Yeah. And actually, aside from one or two actually very bad rolls, I think you guys pretty much ahead.
Yeah.
This episode.
I just had to sacrifice all of my cards to get to this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never upgrading. I'm never going to be able to upgrade again.
I think that's appropriate for Dr. Daring.
Yeah.
Dr. Daring's upgrades are actually losses of sanity.
Yeah. He wants to be. He wants to have no sanity. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, we got to wrap things up here because we are a tad bit over. But I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a lot of fun, players and audience. We will wrap up. Thank you for watching another episode. The creators of Substratum Protocol. Go check them out. Lovely folks. Very interesting game. Go pick it up. Low prep, no prep, collaboratively generated storytelling system, and I think it's a ton of fun. Let me throw it over as I to the other two to tell you guys what we have going on.
Yes, so quite a bit going on at the moment. We have over on the YouTube channel, you can pick up previous episodes of Substratum Protocol. You can pick up our previous arc, Undead Cowboys versus Werewolves. You can pick up a number of games, video games that we've been playing or have played, including my look at what we call in the first hour-ish, where I play either a brand new game that's just released or one that I've never played before and give you my hour's review. So there's a couple of new ones on there. I've just did an hour of Little Nightmares 2, which will be going up shortly. And then there'll be some more in the near future as well. We are currently also casting for our Pokemon adventure, our next live TTRPG. So if you want to get involved with that, do check out the socials because we have the casting form over there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, we put a lot of work into this already with a number of different creators. So we're really excited about this one that's going to be coming up. So if you want to get involved, check that out. And yes, there will be more announcements coming soon about future projects and how you can get involved. But as always, if you can do the like and subscribe and follow us, that is always greatly appreciated. And that's me.
I am the I. I have actually just compiled the last bit of the inklings of some stories that I wish to tell you of your own world. Right after we are done with this particular night, I am going to actually engage with my two cohorts on the last story I have compiled. Hopefully over the next week or so, we will produce those for you and put them on YouTube for your listening displeasure. Please watch out for those as they come out, and I hope you enjoy.
All right, excellent. Yeah, I think that's all we have. Great stuff coming up. Thank you for watching. Thank you, my two lovely colleagues here, for playing your fascinating characters. We will be back next week, same time, same place, for the next leg of our expedition, which I unfortunately just closed the book. Which is the Alpha Particle Road. I will leave that as a bit of a teaser. As the Overseer said, we're seeing a new layer of danger, new degree of danger going forward. So things are going to ratchet up a bit. Fun things to come.
Lovely.
Lovely jubbly. All right, folks, go check out the social medias. Go check out we have a lot of great content and stuff coming up. So we hope to see you even more in the future. Take care, folks, and we will see you next time.